Today, the cryptocurrency market blew up, at least the majority of it. The problem is that Bitcoin has been mostly ignoring this. It is currently hovering around $119,544, up just 1% from the previous day. But take a look at Ethereum. That's where the action is right now. Ethereum just surged 8.5% in a single day. And this is significant since alt season usually begins when ETH starts to go nuts like this. We're conversing $4,565 at the moment. In fact, it reached the highest level in years earlier today, surpassing $4,600. $4,861 is the highest amount ever recorded. Thus, we're approaching that area quite closely. The rest of the market will decline when this item truly takes off. That's the way it is. And to be honest, that's what excites me about the entire circumstance. Yes, I own some Ethereum, but more significantly, I understand the implications for XRP and all of my other investments. The market capitalization recently surpassed $4 trillion, and I can tell you now that before this cycle ends, that number will rise significantly. By the way, we're going to delve deeply into XRP in particular for the duration of this video. You're going to witness something quite amazing. According to every analyst I follow, XRP is poised for yet another huge run. You understand why this is so important if you have been watching my channel for a while. When all of these analysts, including the ones I actually pay attention to and who have a strong track record, start saying the same thing, it almost always turns out just as they predicted. Indeed, there are instances when they are mistaken and weird things happen, but in all honesty, when you have this kind of unanimity from reliable people, they are usually spot on. And I'm going to give you a ton of instances of analysts who are all anticipating that XRP will take off. And it won't be months before we speak. However, I must make the customary disclaimer before we discuss all of that. I'm not a finance nerd with a lot of credentials. Nothing I say here is financial advice, and you should not base any decisions on what to purchase or sell on what I say. Alright, so XRP is sitting at $3.26 as I record this. It was just a few hours ago that we actually hit $3.29 earlier today. To be honest though, I wouldn't get very excited about these figures because I suspect we won't be staying in this range for very long. The fact that XRP is riding the wave with everything else today is pretty awesome. It feels like Christmas morning as I browse Livecoin Watch. Nearly everything has increased by 5% to 10%. Additionally, XRP is completely keeping up. When that occurs, you have to love it. Now, there's a legitimate explanation for all of today's madness. This is the original headline, taken directly from Investopedia. Stocks surged as the CPI news raised anticipation for a rate drop, and the S&P 500 Nasdaq Composite closed at record highs. And sure enough, that was the very thing that threw cryptocurrency into overdrive. When you consider it, it's fairly crazy that the S&P 500 suddenly surged beyond 6,400 for the first time ever. Since stocks and cryptocurrencies are both considered investments that carry risk, when traditional markets begin to party, cryptocurrencies typically crash that party as well. People are becoming more daring and taking on greater risk, as seen by the fact that even the Russell 2000 was going crazy with small cap stocks. At the same time as all of this, cryptocurrencies are exploding. This is because the CPI inflation figure was only slightly lower than everyone had anticipated. The market is now certain that the Fed will lower interest rates. Look, it doesn't matter if you think that's fantastic or awful. The market is reacting precisely as it is at this very moment. Here I'm referring about split-second timing. Everything changed when that data hit. As soon as the CPI report was out, there was an immediate jump in all prices. You name it, XRP, Ethereum, etc. Everything suddenly soared. It's stunning to observe. The most intriguing thing about current pricing is that we're still a long way from euphoria. Let me present this to you from a different perspective. I generally look at Bitcoin or XRP trends on Google, but take a look at this instead. Here are Coinbase search results dating back to July 2015. Take a look at what occurs each time we reach a cycle peak. Because they want to get into cryptocurrency as soon as possible, people go crazy looking for Coinbase. They turn into complete degenerates who essentially hurl money at everything that has a green candle. Those search levels are much beyond our capabilities. You could counter that perhaps those who are going to look for Coinbase had already done so. For example, this cycle might not peak in the same manner as others. Well, perhaps. However, I genuinely don't believe that argument. The truth is that just a small portion of the world's population actually own cryptocurrency. Therefore, whether it reaches a new all-time high or not, I think we're going to see that search traffic explode once more. In any case, this is just another evidence that we are far from being in a state of euphoria just yet. There are no warning signs flashing that indicate this cycle is almost over. But believe me, I'll be screaming it from the rooftops when we finally arrive, because you truly don't want to be caught in the act. Dom just posted something really awesome. The dominance of Bitcoin reached a new low. As anticipated, the bearish retest performed flawlessly. As altcoins continue to function, we're now watching that 60% level to make sure it remains resistance. This is what's so thrilling about it. While Bitcoin isn't even declining, Ethereum has been rising. Although Bitcoin's supremacy is waning, it has recently increased somewhat. We were at 59.62% when Dom made this post, and when I looked about an hour ago, it was almost unchanged. Guys, it's happening. Based on our prior observations, this is unfolding just as we would have hoped. To be honest, this is wonderful news. We're witnessing the greatest reenactment of history, I assure you. This should have you feeling quite excited if you own XRP and are optimistic about the future. Wow, this stuff is amazing. Dom just gave us an update on Ethereum. Domination. After Ethereum hit that ideal 2020 support level, its market share literally doubled in just 100 days. Well, not terrible for a dead coin. The story is always the same. When something makes no sense at all, people love to declare it dead. Recall how everyone was writing off XRP last year. Now they're doing the same with Ethereum. I'm sorry, but that reasoning simply doesn't make sense, and it's not dead. Take a look at this. We're now looking at nearly 14% dominance. This is when things start to get interesting. Imagine what will occur when XRP actually gets going. The idea of XRP reclaiming the number 2 position is not entirely outlandish. It has happened before, and let's just say that things become fascinating very quickly when you consider what that can entail for the price. You see, I have no idea where XRP is going, therefore I'm not here to make crazy price forecasts. However, this is what I will say. I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if we ended up seeing double digits. Here Dom is examining the entire 2 chart. In essence, that is the whole cryptocurrency market, minus Bitcoin. He also claims that we are on the verge of a significant event. Man, we're getting close, but we're not quite there yet. Neither the July high nor the 2021 peak have been reached by Total 2. He's keeping a close eye out for that signal of confirmation. Although XRP is undoubtedly a significant component of that mix, he is speaking of the entire cryptocurrency space here. Here's what's truly crazy though. You're going to see numerous reputable chart analysts discussing XRP and essentially making the same point. It is prepared for flight. Normally these people don't follow the same script, but at the moment they're completely in sync. Here is Dom's last update on XRP. By the way, I'm very sure that everything that comes after this is just XRP talk. According to him, the news pump gap has been closed. He is in fact referring to the SEC's Ripple news from roughly 5 days ago, when they formally submitted that joint document with the court and abandoned their appeals, or anything significant. According to Dom, XRP is currently essentially hovering between a few crucial milestones. Local VWAPs and the monthly all-time high VWAP are all centered around the $3.20 range. He believes that before we can truly run at new heights, 2 things must occur. First, we must turn the green line on his chart, which represents the all-time high VWAP, into support. The second, and most important price move is for $3.33 to move into strong support territory. Here's the crazy part. Over the past few days, I've shown you a number of analysts, all of whom have pointed to the precise $3.33 level, and have essentially reached the same conclusion on their own. Come on, we're essentially at odds at that point. I believe one guy mentioned $3.32. They're all lining up like that, which is really crazy, isn't it? We're going to blow over that level someday, so take it as you will. This is a chart of XRP and ETH from what appears to be early May of this year.